Welcome to our first episode. Today, we're exploring something that connects us all. Those moments when words seem to abandon us exactly when we need them most. You know that feeling. Your pulse quickens, your thoughts scatter like leaves in wind. If you've ever felt this way, you're in good company. Studies suggest that fear of speaking publicly affects most people at some point in their lives. It's more common than fear of flying, heights, or even medical procedures. But here's what I find fascinating. This isn't really about speaking at all. It's about vulnerability, the raw human experience of being truly seen by others. When we understand this deeper truth, everything changes. We stop fighting our nervousness and start working with it as information, as energy we can redirect. Today, we'll explore 3 approaches that have transformed how I think about communication. These aren't just techniques. They're ways of honoring both your message and your audience. They're about showing up as yourself, fully and authentically. Let me tell you about a moment that taught me everything. I was 12 years old, sitting in our family's beat-up Honda outside my piano teacher's house. Today was my first recital, and I had prepared Chopin's Minute Waltz for weeks. I could play it perfectly in my bedroom, fingers dancing across the keys with confidence. But as we walked into that living room filled with folding chairs and expectant faces, something fundamental shifted inside me. When my name was called, I approached the piano bench like I was walking to my execution. I sat down, positioned my hands, and nothing. Not just a mistake, complete paralysis. The melody that lived in my fingers had simply vanished. I sat there for what felt like hours, my hands frozen above the keys, while 20 people waited in uncomfortable silence. Finally, I played something, not the Chopin, but a simple scale I'd learned years earlier. Then I stood up and returned to my chair, burning with embarrassment. That walk back to my chair taught me something profound about the gap between knowing and doing, between preparation and performance. I realized that my preparation had been purely mechanical. I'd memorized finger positions without understanding the music itself. Does any of this resonate with you? That moment when everything you've prepared just disappears? When your confidence seems to evaporate under observation? This experience touches every area of our lives. Job interviews where our achievements turn into stumbled sentences. Meetings where our brilliant insights become mumbled afterthoughts. Even casual conversations when we suddenly can't remember how to be ourselves. What's happening isn't personal failure, it's human design. Our nervous systems evolved to interpret being watched as potential danger. When we feel evaluated, our brain's alarm system activates, flooding us with stress chemicals that prioritize survival over eloquence. Your racing heart, dry mouth, and scattered thoughts aren't character flaws. They're your ancient protection system trying to keep you safe. But here's the empowering part. Once we understand this mechanism, we can work with it rather than against it. The goal isn't fearlessness, it's effectiveness despite fear. Let me share 3 approaches that can transform your relationship with speaking. Here's the first insight that changed everything for me. Preparation isn't about perfect recall. It's about deep familiarity with your core ideas themselves. After my piano recital disaster, I started approaching preparation differently. Instead of just memorizing pieces, I began understanding their structure. Where the melody curved upward, how the harmonies created tension and release, why certain phrases repeated. When I truly knew the music's logic, my fingers could find their way even when my mind went blank. The same principle applies to speaking. Rather than scripting exact words, focus on becoming intimate with your core ideas themselves. Start by identifying what I call your North Star statement, the single most important thing you want someone to remember. This shouldn't sound formal or academic. Write it as you'd explain it to your best friend over coffee. For instance, instead of "effective team collaboration requires strategic communication protocols," you might say, "Teams work better when people actually talk to each other about what matters." Once you have this North Star, build 3 supporting pillars around it. But here's the key difference. Don't write out how you'll explain each pillar. Instead, collect stories, examples, and observations that illustrate each point. Think of yourself as a curator rather than a memorizer. Gather rich material, times you've seen this principle work, moments when ignoring it caused problems, research that supports it, questions people often ask about it. This approach creates what I call flexible confidence. When you deeply understand your material rather than simply memorizing it, you can adapt in real time. If someone looks confused, you can try a different example. If you lose your train of thought, you can find multiple paths back to your main points. I learned this lesson again during my first job presentation. I had crafted a 20-slide PowerPoint about market analysis, memorizing transitions between each slide. 15 minutes in, someone asked about our competitor's recent merger, something not in my script. Instead of gracefully incorporating their question, I panicked. I spent the remaining 10 minutes trying to get back to my memorized sequence rather than simply addressing their concern and continuing with my main insights. The irony is that thorough preparation actually increases your freedom. When you know your material at the level of understanding rather than recitation, you can be spontaneous while staying purposeful.
This deeper preparation also frees up mental bandwidth. When you're not using all your cognitive energy trying to remember what comes next, you have capacity for reading the room, connecting with individuals, and adjusting your approach based on their responses. The second transformative insight is this: communication is fundamentally about creating connection, not delivering information. For years, I thought good speaking meant having all the answers ready and delivering them clearly. I focused entirely on my own performance, my words, my gestures, my pacing. But this inward focus actually increased my anxiety because I was monitoring myself constantly for signs of failure. Everything changed when I shifted my attention outward. Instead of asking, "How am I doing?" I started wondering, what do these people need? What are they curious about? How can I be genuinely helpful? This shift happened during a workshop I was facilitating about creative writing. I had prepared exercises and talking points, but early on, I noticed one participant looking frustrated. Instead of pushing ahead with my agenda, I paused and asked, "What's not working for you right now?" She explained that she felt stuck writing about painful family memories. She wanted to honor the truth, but was afraid of hurting people. This wasn't covered in my prepared material, but her question sparked the most valuable discussion we'd had. Other participants shared their own struggles with difficult material. Someone talked about writing through grief. Another person discussed the ethics of sharing family stories. My workshop transformed from a teaching session into a collaborative exploration. That day taught me that real communication happens in the spaces between preparation and spontaneity. When you're genuinely curious about your audience's experience, several powerful things occur. First, you gather real-time information about what resonates, what confuses them, and what they need to hear next. This allows you to adjust your message to be more relevant and helpful. Second, your focus shifts from self-monitoring to genuine engagement. Instead of tracking your own anxiety, you're paying attention to the actual conversation happening in the room. Third, your audience feels seen and valued. When people sense your authentic interest in their perspective, they become collaborators in the conversation rather than judges of your performance. But how do you cultivate this outward focus when you're nervous? Start before you begin speaking. Take a moment to really look at your audience, not to evaluate their judgment of you, but to notice them as individuals. Who seems engaged and curious? Who looks tired or distracted? Who might be dealing with challenges similar to what you're addressing? This observation grounds you in the present moment and connects you to your purpose. During your conversation or presentation, watch for subtle feedback. A slight nod might indicate understanding. A furrowed brow could signal confusion. Time to try a different explanation. Someone checking their phone might mean you need to re-engage with a question or shift your energy. Here's a practice I call curiosity breaks. Every few minutes, pause your planned remarks and ask a genuine question. What's your experience with this? Or, where do you see this playing out in your work? Or simply, what questions are surfacing for you? These pauses serve multiple purposes. They give you valuable information, make your audience feel included, and create natural breathing space that reduces your own pressure to perform continuously. The third insight involves working with your physical presence as an ally rather than fighting against it. Your body is always communicating. The question is whether it's supporting your message or contradicting it. When we're nervous, we often try to hide or minimize our physical presence. We shrink inward, speak quickly to get it over with, avoid eye contact to reduce the feeling of being watched. But here's what I've discovered. Your physical state directly influences your mental state. When you align your body with your intention to communicate clearly, your mind follows. Let me share what I learned from an unexpected teacher. A few years ago, I took a pottery class to try something completely different from my usual work. On my first day, the instructor, Maria, was demonstrating how to center clay on the wheel. She said, "Your clay will only be as steady as you are. If you're tense and rushed, the clay becomes wobbly. If you're grounded and patient, the clay responds by becoming stable." As I watched her work, I noticed how she sat, feet planted firmly on the floor, shoulders relaxed but attentive, hands confident but not forceful. Her entire presence was calm and purposeful. Later, when I tried speaking in front of groups again, I remembered Maria's lesson about groundedness. I started paying attention to my physical foundation, literally how I was connecting with the earth beneath me. When standing, I plant my feet about hip-width apart, feeling my weight evenly distributed. Not rigid like a soldier, not slouching like I'm trying to disappear, but stable like a tree with strong roots. When sitting, I place both feet on the floor and sit up straight, not stiffly, but with gentle alertness. This physical grounding creates what I call present moment anchor. No matter what happens in the conversation, I have this stable foundation to return to. Breathing becomes your most powerful tool once you understand its connection to your nervous system. When we're anxious, our breathing becomes shallow and rapid, which signals danger to our brain. But we can reverse this signal.
Try this pattern. Inhale slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Then exhale slowly for 6 counts. The longer exhale activates what scientists call the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's natural calm and connect mode. Practice this breathing pattern before important conversations, not just during them. Think of it as tuning an instrument before a performance. You're preparing your nervous system to respond optimally. Eye contact deserves special attention because it's often misunderstood. The goal isn't intense staring or constant visual connection. Instead, think of eye contact as offering moments of genuine attention. When speaking with one person, let your gaze rest naturally on their face while completing a thought. Then allow it to move naturally, perhaps to your hands while gesturing, or to the side while considering their response. With groups, share your attention by connecting visually with different people for the length of a complete sentence. Your gestures matter, but not in the way most people think. Don't focus on making bigger gestures or specific hand movements. Instead, let your hands move naturally to support your words. When you gesture authentically, the way you do in comfortable conversation with friends, it actually helps you access language more fluidly. Here's something most people don't realize. The pace of your speech affects not just how others hear you, but how you hear yourself. When you slow down even slightly, not dramatically, just enough to be intentional, you signal competence to your own nervous system. Record yourself in practice conversation and listen back. Most people are surprised to discover they speak faster than they think they do. Experiment with reducing your pace by about 10%. It might feel unnaturally slow to you, but will sound perfectly natural to listeners. When you prepare deeply, listen genuinely, and use your body as an ally, something remarkable happens. The internal shift is profound. You move from, "I hope I don't embarrass myself," to, "I have something meaningful to contribute." This isn't manufactured confidence or positive thinking. It's the natural result of being truly prepared, genuinely engaged with your audience, and physically aligned with your purpose. When you know your material at the level of understanding rather than memorization, you stop fearing forgotten words. You trust that you can find multiple paths to your main insights. When you're actively curious about your audience's needs and responses, you stop being a performer and become a contributor. The question changes from, "How am I being perceived?" to, "How can I be genuinely helpful?" When your body is grounded and aligned, you have a stable platform for authentic expression. You're not fighting against physical tension or trying to override your nervous system. You're working skillfully with your natural responses. Externally, this inner alignment creates what people call presence. It's not charisma or performance. It's the simple power of someone who is fully present with their message and their audience. This creates an upward spiral. As you feel more centered and connected, your audience becomes more engaged. As they engage more authentically, you feel more confident and connected to them. Communication becomes collaboration rather than performance. Here's what I want to leave you with. You don't need to eliminate nervousness to communicate effectively. You don't need to become someone else or develop a completely different personality. You simply need to work skillfully with who you already are. The approaches we've explored today, preparing through understanding, engaging through curiosity, and grounding through physical awareness, these extend far beyond formal presentations. They're ways of showing up more authentically in all your relationships and interactions. Your invitation for this week: choose one upcoming conversation that matters to you. It might be a work meeting where you want to contribute an idea, a family discussion about something important, or even a social situation where you'd like to participate more fully. Spend 15 minutes preparing using this approach. Identify your North Star statement and gather supporting stories and examples. Think about your audience. What might they be curious about? What challenges are they facing? What would be genuinely helpful for them to hear? Before you speak, take a moment to ground yourself physically. Feel your feet on the floor, breathe intentionally, and look at the people you're speaking with as individuals rather than judges. Then, notice what shifts. You might find yourself more connected to your own message. You might discover genuine curiosity about others' responses rather than worry about their judgment. You might experience speaking as a contribution rather than a performance. Remember, everyone listening to you has felt exactly what you feel when speaking becomes difficult. They're not hoping you'll fail. They're hoping you'll succeed, because your success enriches the conversation for everyone. Every small step toward authenticity makes you not just a clearer communicator, but a more confident human being. And real confidence isn't about never feeling nervous. It's about speaking up when it matters, even when your voice shakes a little. Until next time, keep honoring your voice. Keep practicing these tools. And remember, your perspective, your insights, your authentic contribution matters more than perfect delivery. The world needs what you have to say.